right, moving on, approval of minutes.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend that you approve the minutes from the regular board meeting on June 21st, 2022.
So we have a recommendation from Superintendent Salazar to approve the regular meeting minutes from June 21st, 2022. Any questions, changes? I'll need a motion for approval.
I so move to approve the minutes from last meeting.
All right, I'll need a second.
Awesome.
So we have a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Citizen comment? Moving on. Principals and athletic directors, boards reports. I was gonna say.
Our athletic director's on vacation this week. He finally found a window that there was no camps, there was no games, so he's happy.
Do you have any questions, comments? I'm gonna peek at mine real quick just to make sure I haven't taken any notes on it. Alright. That was easy, very good. Ready to move on, we'll move on to board president. Oh wait, yeah, where's yours? Oh, there it is. I don't see.
Yeah.
Board president and board of education. First one is the action item for board goals.
So we're bringing back for approval the board goals and action steps that we discussed, we developed during our board retreat and then brought as a draft last meeting. And so, Mr. President and members of the board, I recommend that you approve our board goals and action steps, and we'll get going on.
We have a recommendation from Superintendent Salazar to approve the board goals. Any questions, comments? I would say the only thing I would like to point out, and it's just something that's come up in my mind with the safety and security. When we're going to conduct the vulnerability checks, I think that's still a great idea. I think when we've done that in the past, I think we had one time where it wasn't communicated. You know, there's supposed to be the random nature of it, but you know, so that it's to mimic, you know, real life, but that we not
Terrorize the staff
yeah,
and children.
yeah, so
We will make sure.
I know that that's happened once in our district. I've heard nightmares in other districts.
Yeah.
Because kids have access to their cell phones and
Yeah.
you know, so I'm just kind of hoping we'll be sensitive to that we don't create any false alarms or anything like that.
Mr. Bidwell.
Well, I think to that, it says cover the evaluation measurement, complete a checklist.
Mhm.
So I think part of it's gonna be just kind of randomly walking around, checking things,
Yeah.
like having a list of.
Yeah. I was just concerned that, you know, if we had this random person.
Didn't the last time we sent out, right before we did it out to parents, we sent a call to the parents at that school and let them know that if we were doing a drill, and just because we'd seen that in other districts, it's like, yeah, it turns into, you know, it's too scary nowadays, you know, everybody's on edge, so.
It's multi-layered, when you have kids in other buildings, you know, siblings in other
siblings.
buildings and so.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you saw that I'm sorry. I think you guys handled that pretty good last time.
Yeah, if we go, if we get to that, when we get to that point, with an in-depth drill or more intense part of the assessment, then we'll communicate it out through share or whatnot.
Yeah.
The intent of this, I believe, is also just to have, like President House said, a checklist and going around and collecting data. Our doors locked this month. How many were not? Were the gates locked? You know, just keeping up with the practices for safety at that level versus the more wide, the broader and bigger actual emergency, drills that we may have with the police or the fire safety.
And we'll, during the work session in August, we'll have Mr. Viviano and Mr. Adams report out on the work that they've done, because they've already done quite a bit of work and had meetings with our local agencies moving forward with that. And there's some actual physical things that they're doing, and so we will make sure to have that as a report out in August during our work session. We also anticipate with federal funding for security in schools that there's going to be money coming down the pike. So we will be kind of making our recommendations, wish list, and so that we're prepared for that and utilize funds as soon as they're available. You know, it usually takes a long time with the government, but we'll be ready for them. So.
We have our recommendation from Superintendent Salazar. If there's no other questions or comments, the motion for approval.
I move that we approve the board goals and strategic goals.
So I have a motion, I'll give a second.
One second.
So we have a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
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 Sorry.
I was waiting.
Can I just tag on to that, we will still be reviewing these 4 times a year with you, the superintendent position. Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
And that way we keep that, we
Can
keep-
adjust.
yeah, we can adjust, or she gives us an
When we check
update,
off.
or she can say, hey, this really isn't working, we have to switch to this, so.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
Moving on to research and polling.
So on the research and polling, this is the redistricting. As you will recall, we had our research and polling lady come and present different maps. Those maps have been provided to you all as well as on our website for the last 6 weeks, or 4 weeks. Is it 4 weeks? 6 weeks. We have not had any inquiries about that or comments. So I'll just turn it over to you, Mr. Armijo, to move forward on that.
All right. Basically, we just need to pick the one that we would like to move forward with. So I'll open up the floor to conversation, suggestions, recommendations, questions.
Looking at A is the one that probably has the least amount of impact to really any of the districts and maintaining a good overall coverage.
I think in my experience, when we've gone through this process before, is that the least intrusive one, the one with the least amount of change for the voters is easier to understand. Just that you're not running around and everybody trying to figure out where the lines are again and everything. This one, very minimally moves those lines, and I think it works out really well. I'm not sure how much larger Charles wants.
Yeah, much more, but the whole
Yes.
I have lots of dirt, but no people.
space in there.
There's some cows.
You know,
But I would tend to agree that I think A is probably one of the better options for us.
And being very new at this, I agree. I think it looked like it was the least change.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To keep things.
Well, and I think that it's part of the reason why we used a service, I mean, is so that they could crunch the numbers and, well, you know, there is the least disruption, but it's also legal and calculated. You know, they did the work to ensure that we're in full compliance and that, you know, all the benchmarks are hit that are necessary in redistricting. So I myself also found A to be the better option in my opinion as well, so.
What did you think, Albert? Because your district is the one that
Is it better?
gets changed.
Well, it sounds like we're all pretty comfortable with A. So I would just need a motion for approval of option A on redistricting of board member districts.
I would motion that we go with option A for redistricting of the board member districts.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Does this require a roll call? I don't.
I don't think
We
it
can do
does.
it just that.
You can do a roll call if you want, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it just in case, but we'll start with the roll call too. Sorry.
Wendy Burns, I vote A, yes. Linda Hudson, I vote yes.
Travis is,
Melissa Houses.
And Charles Army vote yes for option A. Option A is it is.
And when does that take effect?
Next, January 1, is that correct?
So,
So, they just had everybody getting it as soon as they could, because we'll have to change maps, get them on,
So it doesn't affect, the voting this,
we don't have any.
we don't have anybody to vote, yeah.
Right, so we don't have a board election again until the next November, so,
Okay.
that's why we need to.
Okay, gotcha.
Deadline was October or is it December?
Um,
Doesn't really matter, but
I think it was October.
I think it was October,
October,
yeah. So, but we're just like to check those things off the box. Off the list. Yeah, yeah.
It's your turn.
My turn. So, do you remember last month? We voted on revising the calendar because the PDD didn't give us enough money for October 14th for a PD day. Literally that afternoon, it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock, they sent an email, it's like, oh yeah, we are gonna give you the whole amount that you requested, and it actually gave us a little bit more, didn't it? And so we need to reapprove the calendar, and we are adding back the October 14th, which we originally had on the calendar. So what that entails is that teachers, EAs, the principals and those people will already be on, we've made their calendars so that they would be there, but that they would be paid their daily rate for that to come in and do professional development. And if you'll recall, when we did the calendar, we asked the staff if they wanted 2, 3, or 4 days. They chose, the majority was 4, but it was so close to 2, we cut it in the middle and went with 3. So it's my recommendation, Mr. President, members of the board, that we recommend the update to the instructional calendar to include October 14th as a professional development day.
Alright, so the recommendation from Superintendent Salazar to update the instructional calendar to include October 14th as a professional development day. Any questions? If there's no questions, we'll need a motion for approval,
I so move.
and I'll need a second.
I'll second it.
So a motion and a second, all members in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'm knocking on wood that we won't be bringing it back again.
Actually, that's gonna be a really nice PD day because they just get done with all the parent-teacher conferences and then they can regroup and listen to them, yeah.
And that's kind of why we put those days at where we put them, is so that it would be kind of a start state planning the next 9 weeks, nevertheless. So hopefully that will help, because I know the teachers have really missed out on those extra PD days, and they've been asking for them, so.
I was just double checking, the redistricting is by the end of the year.
Oh.
Yeah, I just went back to the process for the research code, so just to clarify that.
Ms. Romero's not here about her board report, but if you have any questions, I will try to answer them or get you answers. And I think that little calendar right there at the bottom is what was posted on social media today, so that parents would know not only when the schedule pickup, but also the meet your teacher nights, and so those are
Or they're all on there.
yes. She may have added onto the today's calendar the early childhood, because it wasn't on the original one, so it's probably not on that report. But I don't think any of you guys have littles. Littles. I don't think you have grandkids going to preschool this year.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Any questions on Mr. Miller's report? I did find the end of year accounting report a little sobering on the homelessness.
Oh, I know. You're right. That was really.
It's about 7.5% of our student population.
And so remember that, and I'm gonna have Patty give us the definition of homelessness, so it's not a general, what we think is like not a lot out on the street, share what the definition of homelessness is.
So, President, on behalf of members of the board, for the definition through the education purposes of homelessness is anyone lacking a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. That includes students in a doubled up situation, which is the majority of our students, and nationwide, it's the majority of students that qualify for that. Meaning that the student maybe with a family member, maybe not, but are living in another household, grandparents, neighbors, friends, that type of thing. And then that's the majority of ours. So we do have those other cases where they are actually living in a car or something like
That's,
that.
which still isn't good, but it's not quite as bad, but that, and we see more and more of that, with how yeah, they're sharing, doubling up, the living with a friend or on sleeping on someone's couch, and I don't see that getting any better real soon with the housing cost and, the way it is, so.
And Superintendent Salazar, if I may add to that just a little bit. On average, nationally, the percentage is usually 10%, and that's usually what ours runs. Our numbers are actually percentage-wise is a little bit lower percentage-wise. The numbers themselves are running just about the same, but percentage-wise, because our enrollment has gone down a little bit, down to that 7.5 is good, and not good, but we're right on track. But there's concern nationwide that families, because of all of COVID and online learning over the last couple of years, that it has been harder to identify students. So we're trying real hard to make sure that we're doing a good job of identifying for the school year. Just to put that out to you.
And Patty and all of her little elf helpers are having a one-stop shopping tomorrow. So go ahead with your bento. We'll throw that in under the superintendent's report.
So that's something we're very excited about. So we have a whole team from here at central office that are helping put this on because it's definitely a team event. But all of our McKinney-Vento students within the district have been invited through every means possible to invite them to come in tomorrow. We're all set up down in the gym. If you want to go look, it's a pretty exciting place right now. So we're ready to start at 9 o'clock in the morning. We are trying to do a one-stop shop for everything you need for back to school. We're going to get you set up from school supplies and backpacks, but clothing, shoes, some hygiene items. We've got books for kids. We've got some snacks, just all kinds of good stuff down there. And we're really looking forward to having kids come in. It's one of the few times that we here at central office get to interact with kids, so
They're all
we always
excited.
get very
They love
excited.
Even though they're all stressed out because they're like, oh my gosh, you're working all these hours and stuff, they love it, so.
Yeah. So it is a lot of fun, and it's a big event. Families, parents that come in are very appreciative of everything. Kids are, it's so hard when we see kids get so excited over a pair of shoes, and family members getting excited over those hygiene products. It really, I think, really benefits our families directly, and they're very appreciative of it.
Thank you for your work and your team on
Thank you,
that.
Patty.
This is-
Yes, thank
The
you.
team,
That sounds
they've been working hard.
Well, the other number in that report is the economically disadvantaged, and if I get the math correct, it's 46.5%, almost 46.6. I think we always have to keep, I'm thankful that was in the report, because it helps us keep our true north, and keeps us grounded in the reality of our communities. I don't think COVID helped with a lot of that situation either, so I think it just helps us keep our true north and keep our eyes on providing a quality education for all students, and especially those that may fall into that category that may not be able to advocate for themselves. So.
And, those numbers, 42 is probably the lowest amount of any of our schools. So it's across the district. It's not just centralized to any area, it's across the district.
So you can see that.
Yeah. Just 1 second. Did you guys get an agenda? Because if not, you got it perfect. Just wanted to make sure you had it.
That's what I just wanted to get, thank
Because you
you.
can also, we're trying something different. You can do it, and it's got some documents if you want to look at those too. So
Yeah.
we're trying to do something a little bit different. You can do QR code, look at us. And I'm not wrong.
It's not Google's.
Yeah, exactly.
The links are broken. But
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not
right.
like you broke it. Fine, jinxed it. Okay, I'm sorry, move on.
Yeah, so if there's no further questions or comments on government services, I think we can move on to business.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend that you approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 3. Ms. Young and her team have been frantically cleaning up. So I recommend that you approve the consent agenda.
Next, we have a recommendation for Superintendent Salazar to approve consent agenda finance items 1 through 3. Any questions? If there's no questions, I'll need a motion for approval.
So,
And I'll need a second.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Michelle, now talk a little bit about your internal budget adjustment request.
Yes. Mr. President, members of the board, last month I brought to you a memo asking for you to approve to let me do PED bars up until their deadline of June 7th, which you saw there was one additional bar I had to do. And that was because we actually collected way more taxes than we had anticipated, which means that the counties worked hard and collected some delinquent taxes. And we thought we had plenty of padding in there, but we did not. So we had to do one more PED bar to cover that so we wouldn't get an audit finding like we had got a few years ago, because we don't ever know how much delinquent taxes they're going to collect. This is the same type of situation, so now we're doing just internal bars. Our final reports are due to PED on July 31st. We were working really hard and we were trying to get them all done for this agenda, but there just wasn't enough time. So there'll be a few more that I need to do between now and the end of the month, and then I will bring them to you at the next board meeting so that you can review them. But if I can have your permission to continue on so we can get our numbers cleaned up for our final reports.
So, Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend that you approve the FY 21-22 internal budget adjustment request memo.
So recommendation from Superintendent Salazar to approve the FY 21-22 internal budget adjustment request memo. Any questions, Ms. Young, Ms. Salazar? All right, so I'll need a motion for approval.
Let's move.
And I'll need a second.
I'll second that.
So a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We do have a fixed asset certification. This is a yearly thing, and we do it annually in July. Ms. Young, would you like to share?
Yes, the fixed asset certification, especially for Ms. Hudson and Ms. Burns, who haven't done one of these before, we have to bring to you the list of all of our fixed assets over $5,000 for you to review. And then they have to be certified and signed off on by Ms. Salazar and Mr. Armijo. It's just for your information so that you know what we have in the district. That number will probably go down drastically next year after we get this auction done in a couple of weeks.
So, Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend that you approve the fixed asset certification.
So a recommendation from Superintendent Salazar to approve the fixed asset certification. Any questions? Lots of pages.
Lots of pages.
All right, so I'll need a motion for approval.
I move that we approve the fixed asset certification.
And I'll need a second.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Moving on, finance, do you have anything on finance audit?
Mr. President, members of the board, I do not. The auditors did start sending us lots of requests for information this week. They were trying to give us a reprieve. We were trying to get all these things done for PED. Our deadline for request for reimbursements is July the 7th, so we have kind of asked them to let us get year-end closed, get our RFRs done, so now they've started really sending stuff. So I'm anticipating that they'll want to do that entrance conference probably in the next week or two. I might try to see if they're good with waiting till that first part of August. That way we cover the month of August and we don't have to have one in July and then have another one right away in August. So, but I'll see what your schedules look like and then what their schedules look like and see if I can get something set up either next week or hopefully the following so that we get that one.
think it's gonna be.
It's flying by. Every time I look at the 22, 23, heading, I'm like,
Yeah.
how?
When did it go? When did it get there?
Moving on to personnel. Questions for Mr. Viviano? Got anything for us?
President Armijo, Superintendent Salvar, members of the board, some of the vacancies, are that, again, obviously you can put it on my report, but we've had a couple of, educational assistant resignations, coming over the weekend and yesterday, so working hard to fill those, Route 66 and Moriarty Elementary, so. Got those posted.
Did you say that?
Educational assistants, one was a kinder educational assistant, and the other one was a library educational assistant. And then, going back and forth with the teacher, trying to figure out some license stuff to keep her on board. Yeah, I'm not sure, but, we're working through that. I tried not to be too wordy on the emergency response update to tie into the board goals. It was hard not to put a ton of narrative there, but I wanted to try to give you the gist of what we're headed and what we started with Mr. Adams, and really good turnout with the Moriarty Police Department, the Edgewood Police Department, Lawrence County Emergency Response Team. So that was a good first meeting, and our next meeting is Thursday. I'm not sure if the link worked, just to give you kind of the gist of what part of our training is when it comes to emergency response in the schools with the staff members. That's one of our resources that we'll use to have discussions and ongoing training.
Any other questions for Mr. Viviano? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to support services, special projects and other items. I'll catch up.
President Armijo and Superintendent Salazar, if I may, with transportation, I guess I could have done 30 seconds ago. Just to give everybody a heads up, we've had a great response for applicants, for bus drivers and bus aides. Mr. Berkman and his staff put out a thrill share, then we followed up with Facebook. We did some advertising, got some new banners around here in front of our building and some other places. And they started a bus driver class today with 5 applicants.
Yay!
So that's that, yeah. The last update I had about 2 weeks ago, due to resignations or just some spots we still had, if we keep the bus routes the way they were last year, we were going to be short of 4 drivers. If we were to try to make the routes the way they were prior to COVID and consolidating, we would have been short 7 drivers. So it looks like, we're going to be able to keep those routes consolidated, running smoothly, and hopefully this class of drivers pans out and we can start up. It's not guaranteed for day one based on passing the motor vehicle department test and whatnot, but they started their class today, so
That's great.
got them all ready to go.
That's awesome.
Mr. Vivian, do you administer the test, or do they have to go someplace else and get the test taken, or online, or whatever?
So their board member Hudson, there are 2 phases. One phase of the testing is done in-house, and we have one of our bus drivers who's certified to do that, but then they have to actually go past the motor vehicle department test as well.
Is the one up here, is that a driving test?
It's a driving test, it's a pre-check, driving test, and he's pretty tough on our drivers. He wants to hire them, but he wants to make sure we're
Safe,
yeah.
absolutely, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And anywhere you go, even out of state, you see on fences, you see everywhere, everybody's being bus drivers. So I'm very intrigued by the salaries though. I always look like, how much is that? So we're doing really good with our new salaries, starting at $19 an hour, so.
We're very helpful.
Yeah.
I think it at least gets their interest,
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
catches their eye.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Alright.
You know, the only other thing I would really like to take note of is the tech coordinator report. If you check the link out on the web, on their section, all the training that's scheduled for the next semester, there's some really exciting things going on. So Chris and Karen,
I read each and every one, yeah.
yeah, there's cool stuff going on. So that's exciting, getting back in the swing of things. So.
It feels good to see that.
Yeah.
And again,
It says all the permitting boards are ready.
Yes, all the pre-K boards are ready, they're in, all the new Chromebooks have been checked in.
Is some of the training gonna be for the permitting boards?
Yes, I believe so, and I think they have some basic stuff, and I actually think that the company's actually doing some training as well. Yeah,
there was, I do know on those, I was walking around the elementary the other day and concerned about height. I don't know if they ever, I know
adjusting.
the adjusting of it. I know it's, I looked at it just because I'm nosy.
Touch on us.
I think if we do have teachers that need that, they're gonna need help. There's, you know, if it becomes problematic for their students, I may be willing to help.
I was gonna say you can volunteer,
I
so,
have,
yeah.
I knew you were gonna say that. No, and I think it would be necessary, because those are really great pieces of technology, and, but that height adjustment.
It's gonna be important, especially for the littles, so. And what we did, is we got, stands for all of them, because, you know, it changes from teacher to teacher, from room to room, where they want them, how it's done, so these makes them portable. So I think, I'm hoping, did I hear? I'll have to check on that, about the adjusting of it, they're adjustable, right?
Yes, but I think like Mr. Armijo said, it's like a process, it's
Yeah.
not just like a
It's,
slide up
yeah,
and down.
it's
Yeah,
a
a good little thing.
a three-person.
Because they're heavy, they're very heavy.
Yeah, so.
So you're gonna want me to hold the other
No,
hand?
no, no, no.
Okay.
It's not highly technical to do it, it's just they're heavy, and you would want 2, 3 people to adjust.
Okay, we can make sure and be on that.
Any other questions, maintenance, food service?
Can we go with the leads and stuff for right
No, and we actually, Todd and I met with, 2 of our maintenance gentlemen today. We finally, as of today, are fully staffed. We hired 2 new, and we don't have a grounds person yet. Of course, that's one, but we have our summer crew. We have 2 of our former maintenance guys that are working the instructional calendar. They are working for us this summer and running a crew of kids. We have 4 kids that are helping out and doing that. We did get the west side of the district done this last week and finished up today. Actually, yesterday, they did here, and they're moving over to the east side of the district the rest of the week. I did let them know that if any of them wanted to do overtime and work on Friday, because they're working the 4s week with paying overtime on Friday, because it's very concerning, you know, this rain, it is just,
now? The rain was great, but.
yeah, exactly. You know, we here at central office, we laughed, it's like, we're willing to go and help. There's no more equipment. You know, we don't have another mower, you know, all the weed eaters are taking it, you know, so those type of things. But, you know, it's just kind of gone crazy.
You can borrow mine.
We'll use it, really.
Oh, sweet.
Okay, that's, yeah, is it a riding one? Yeah, I'm all over it. You know, I used to could drive a tractor.
Not what I look like.
Okay. It's not loaded.
That's not more, it's brand new, $70.
Oh, there you go.
And
Okay.
They find themselves behind, a little behind as well. I might be able to help on some weekends or something.
That's kind of what I was thinking. You know, because I just want it to be nice and ready when the kids get out.
And if you bet some of those FFA kids, they
and there's a lot of snakes out there.
Well, and that's what's concerning to me is we want to make sure that, you know, parents, teachers, kids are all, you know, comfortable with the weeds being down. And Todd was very funny today, but not really. In the old student parking lot there at the high school, he says, "Oh look, we have a Christmas tree farm." It's like,
That's a lot more money.
yeah, that's that would be nice. So we may be hunt you down, Mr. Travis.
Did
So,
we know that? Way to go.
yeah, and we are on it and we know about it, so, it's just, trying to get it all worked
As a
out.
matter of fact, I will have nothing to do for my employer for next week. My son's leaving to Dominican Republic. His boy made it to the baseball.
Oh,
Well,
cool,
well, next season.
that's awesome.
I'll leave tomorrow, so if you want, I can send my back next couple of days.
Hey, we take anybody, so we're all over that. I told some of the maintenance guys were saying that they saw a sign that said would mow fields, and it's like, give us the number, we'll hire them to come and do. So, but, cause we don't want our maintenance guys to be overwhelmed over, and they're pretty stressed. Well, and we're getting ready for the auction and you all the normal maintenance stuff, and so whatever we can do to help out, so that would be much appreciated, so.
Alright,
Awesome.
moving on to donation.
So, Mr. President, members of the board, the Sandia Lab Federal Credit Union has donated $1,000 to the district to help support school supplies. So those school supplies are for any students, not just for McKinney-Vento or any. Ms. England, we also have a time where students can come and get backpacks, get school supplies, etc. We are going back to families providing their own school supplies this year, so that will help out. In the last couple of years with COVID, we've supplied those for families with our CARES and ESSER money, and so we're going back to that. So since we're kind of getting back to normal, so I recommend that you approve the donation from the Sandia Lab Federal Credit Union, and it's a cash donation for school supplies.
Alright, so the recommendation from Superintendent Salazar to accept the donation from Sandia Labs Federal Credit Union. It's a cash donation for school supplies. Any questions? If no questions, I'll need a motion. And a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Awesome.
We appreciate it.
I'm sure you'll send them a nice.
Yes, and then a really nice thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing under board policy.
No changes and no advisories this month.
I do wanna, I guess we can maybe talk about it later. I do wanna get some clarification on the public comment piece and see if it's gonna be worth looking into changing on the, where we talk about, where it states in our policy that it has to be an agenda item. I know that that's being questioned in other areas, so I just wanted to find out if we need to adjust our policy or not.
We will visit with Mr. Kennedy and who is the attorney with our policy advisory, and so we'll check with them and see if that needs to be updated. Because I'm sure that we didn't put that in just us, that
No,
was
that was part of the policy.
policy, so we'll check on that and make sure that, thank you for that.
Alright, moving on to advanced planning.
The only thing that we have is that August 1st, so a week from Monday at 8 a.m., we have our welcome back. It's Reimagine Learning in MESD. It's our theme for the year, so we got some light things planned.
Is Todd in charge of this again?
No, but Natalie, now the gauntlet's been put down. It's kind of like, so since he had the comedian, we'll see how, we have a great guest speaker. I can't remember off the top of my head what his name is that's coming in, motivational. And so we're excited about that, and got some other things going on. So got the breakfast sandwiches ordered today, so bang, we're ready.
Can we had talked about doing this before, but we just never got around to it.
Tours.
Tours, yeah.
Yes,
So we could maybe start maybe considering those in September.
yes,
That's a
absolutely,
good idea. That is,
absolutely. We'll set some dates and whoever can make it, how about, thank you, can go, and, okay.
alright, so I think we're moving on to closed executive session.
So it seems like this comes up really often. But it's okay, it's kind of like, quarterly happens really often. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend that we go into executive session on limited personnel matters as permitted under section 10-15-1 H2, superintendent's formative evaluation.
Alright, yeah, enthusiastic recommendation. To enter into executive session pertaining to limited personnel matters as permitted under section 10-15-1 H2, superintendent's formative evaluation. I'll need a motion.
I so moved.
And a second? Alright, so we have a motion and a second to enter, we'll do a roll call vote to enter into executive session, starting with Ms. Burns.
Wendy Burns, I vote yes.
Linda Hudson, yes.
Robert Sanchez.
Elizabeth House, yes.
Charles Armijo, yes. Alright.
Look at you guys, I'm getting up by 7 o'clock. They're very excited. Poor Todd, missed them.